All right, let's talk about some narrow score lines here to close out our week 3 recap. North Carolina Courage versus Washington Spirit, a 2-1 victory for Washington Spirit, picking up all 3 points, and they too are unbeaten to
Mm-hmm.
start their 2023 regular season. Because let's just call it like it is, because Trinity Rodman absolutely rules. That's why they're undefeated.
Sandra actually wrote that in our rundown.
Yes, I did.
Rodman rules because it's the truth, right? Nothing but truth and facts here. Yeah, I mean, incredible game by Trinity Rodman. This is the turnaround that we've been waiting for from Washington Spirit after everything that they've been through over the last several years. Mark Parsons coming in as the head coach now for the Spirit, making changes. Michelle Kang is the ownership, and this game really starting off quick. I think that was like the theme throughout this weekend. So many goals in the opening 10 minutes of these matches. It was quick starts, capitalizing on moments, and that's precisely what we saw from Trinity Rodman getting the opening goal for the Spirit in the 6th minute. Because she does rule, right? It's seizing opportunities and creating chances. That's how she's gotten her goals this year.
I'm curious, I think if we're looking at a team in North Carolina that is, has sort of said more or less like, hey, we've got a lot of new faces. We're trying to build towards something, and it's going to take some time. That's what we've heard out of Washington, out of Mark Parsons. He's like, hey, there's players here we're going to have to work with and
Yeah.
continue to develop in the future. And maybe some folks don't like to hear that when you've got a team that has Trinity Rodman, Ashley Sanchez, Ashley Hatch, Andy Sullivan, right? They gave Rodman this contract to lock her up for the next 4 years. And I'm sure there's folks that are like, no, the window is now. The window is right now. You don't want to hear about, rebuilding and stuff like that. But it seems like the team's bought in a bit, because they're getting the results. They're one of these. They're number 2 right now in the table, and it's early after, it's just 3 weeks. We're just 3 weeks in here. But I think if you're walking away with a win against a team that is also preaching the same things, like, hey, we're trying to do some retooling here.
Mhm.
But if you're walking away with a win with an against another team that's kind of preaching similar things, and you're also getting a chance to some of your depth players. I mean, we also got to see the
Exactly.
debut of Chloe Ricketts in this
Yeah.
game as well in this
Who, I'm not gonna
2-1 win.
lie, I didn't think we would see her until the summer.
Yeah, I'm
I
with
didn't.
you.
I just thought with such a young player at 15 years old being signed, she needs time to kind of develop into the system and into the program and to the professional game. But Mark Parsons clearly thought Ricketts was ready. She was ready. She came on the pitch and she held her own. I think she played really well. I mean, the players got skill. Ricketts can come out and play. I mean, you're talking about Washington and the standings and how they're doing right now. They've got 5 goals for this year, and they're undefeated at this point. I think Washington Spirit fans are incredibly happy about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's being that high in the standings, like if it's going to come down to 1 goal games or right, maybe 2 goal games throughout the year, this is how you want to do it, right? I mean, that they've won by like narrow margins this year, but they're still picking up wins or draws and picking up points every week.
Yeah, I think I think something that we've always seen from the Courage is they've been a team that's been able to attack you in waves. And even though they've got a lot of new pieces that are still kind of getting familiar with each other, they've got someone like Caroline who's just in her 2nd year with the team, but has already showed that she is an incredible, exciting tactical player. And to get 1 attempt on target by way of, I believe it was penalty, after
Yeah.
13 total shots, it's like these are the areas I think for teams that are in these early weeks of the regular season, and also in that kind of
Mhm.
retooling year, that you look at and you're saying, like, here's the area that we're gonna work on in this week moving forward, and try to make sure that we capitalize on the opportunities, when we can. But
I mean, that's back-to-back weeks for North Carolina where their only opportunities are coming from penalty kicks, from moments where their opposition has kind of slipped off slipped up and forced a blunder, right? Against San Diego 2 weeks ago, it was a penalty kick for Caroline, questionable on her taking of it. This
That
week
was awesome.
yeah,
They were
and
both awesome.
this week, it's a handball against Mickey Owen inside the box. Andy Sullivan actually ends up getting a yellow card right after it because of her verbal communications with the official, and then Caroline stepping up again and finishing them. But North Carolina cannot rely on their opposition to make mistakes in the box that will give them penalty kicks. They have to be able to score in the run of play, and that's something that we only saw in the opening week when North Carolina and Guile was able to surprise right players in Kansas City, and finding the back of the net. That's the only time we've seen it from North Carolina. Otherwise, they're struggling. I think the loss of North Carolina to and Debinha is bigger than they hoped and maybe than they expected and fans expected from this Kansas City side. I mean, you just see how much Debinha did to link up and to find feet and to connect on these really great balls and set her teammates up for success in front of the net that now they're missing, right? They've also lost Ordonez. I mean, there's a number of changeover players at North Carolina, but the run of play goal scoring is rough for North Carolina.
All right, something we'll have to pay attention to for sure to see if they tighten things up there and can connect more on their opportunities. But not the only narrow scoreline. We got to talk about one last final game to close out the recap of matches. Got to talk about OL Reign versus San Diego Wave FC. Home opener finally arrived for the Reign. Took a few weeks, but they welcomed almost 10,000 people to Lumen for this home opener against the Wave. And we were really excited about this one. We talked about it in the preview that this was going to be one of those big games to keep an eye on because there were multiple kickoffs happening all on Saturday. 5 games just all at once. And if there were areas where you had to split your time or split your viewing, that this was maybe one of those games where you wanted to take a closer eye on, and I stand by that. I think it delivered. I think it was one of these games on the West Coast that delivered the after dark action. I think we had a little bit of a coaches battle in this one, and I
Sure.
always love those. I think when we were doing the preview in this match and trying to make our picks, leaning into that a little bit, I always love to see Harvey versus Stoney and kind of see the different tactics and how things are going to go. I loved the patience from the
Mhm.
Reign. I really like that the shape that they presented. Frustrating for I think the Wave at times. Fallon Tullis-Joyce with an
Ooh.
outstanding game. Absolutely love to see it. Love to see the keeper just sort of receive the game that's coming to them. Massive double save there. But hard to believe, maybe, or not so hard to believe that this one ends in a 1-0 scoreline and another dramatic game winner from Olivia van der Yacht in this one. 1-0. That's all that's needed for the Reign, all 3 points.
Yeah, the end of the game, like, we're falling off the
Yeah.
cliff at the end of this game, and Van der Yacht smacks it home the 95th minute, at the end against San Diego when both teams had held on so much and created, opportunities. I think that I mean, in our picks for this one, I did have OL Reign winning this one. I think coming back to Lumen Field was going to give them an incredible advantage over whoever they played, right? Whether it was San Diego, Portland, no matter what. And the crowds coming out just under 10,000 for the crowds at Lumen Field. I mean, just electric in Seattle to support this OL Reign side. But the coaching battle, you're exactly right. Between Laura Harvey and Casey Stoney, the intelligence between these women is fantastic. And their knowledge not only of the game, but of their individual players, the skills that they possess and how to set them up to be in those best positions to achieve those goals. I think that Laura Harvey outplayed Casey Stoney a little bit in this one. And that's maybe not
Okay.
so indicative of the score line, right? Because the way the goal came about, I mean, it was outside of the box, the ball kind of ricocheting around, and a shot goes on goal. It comes back out, and then Van der Yacht flies it towards goal again, and it gets past Sheridan. But the way that the response that OL Reign had to what San Diego was doing, because San Diego did create chances and they had opportunities. They've got incredible threats up top with Shaw, Ali, Morgan. There are plenty of options and things that cause chaos. And that's why San Diego has been so good and at the top of this table for the first 3 weeks. But Laura Harvey was able to respond and adjust to that, and no Rose Lavelle for this OL Reign side, and
Yeah.
then that definitely changes things in the midfield, and yet OL Reign is still able to get a clean sheet and get 3 points over San Diego.
Is this also one of those I know I mentioned it earlier if
Mhm.
with Angel City and racing, is this a game that maybe came down to depth as well? I think that was something I had
Yeah.
an eye on as well, because we talked a little bit about players returning back from an international window, who we might see or might not see. We were curious if Rose Lavelle was going to be available for this game, and we now know that that was not the case, but,
But we did
seeing the
get to see
return of
Megan
I was
Rapinoe.
gonna say,
Yeah.
we're gonna see that we got to see the return of Megan Rapinoe. I do wonder if maybe this is a moment where you have this type of player coming in, with just, what, 15 minutes or so remaining in regulation, and, players that kind of maybe teammates who perhaps elevate their play when a more experienced player comes on in those types of moments. Looking at how this goal came to life, right? You know, this game winner, it's a set piece opportunity, and it's Rapino over the ball and going straight for goal and forcing a save out of Sheridan, and then watching this ball get kind of recycled back around, and Vondia just throwing her boot
Yeah.
through it, and what a goal, right? Not her first stoppage time winner. It was great to see all of her teammates celebrating and kind of, cracking the jokes around that as well. And we talk about so much how this is like the most competitive league, and it comes down to these margins, right, between the teams on games like this, and maybe it comes down to something like, the duels battle, between these two teams, or the possession, the ability to kind of retain that ball, and be able to recycle it back in these kind of waning moments. But maybe they're not always pretty, but I don't necessarily feel that way about this game. I thought this was a very kind of lovely, kind of
Mhm.
methodical, just sort
I
of game
liked
of
it too.
soccer to watch, and it just happened to be a low scoring match in the
I
process. And you heard Casey Stoney after the game and in post game just gutted for her players. You present the game plan, and they were for the most part executing it well, but just
Yeah.
now walking away with the loss instead of a result.
Exactly. I mean, when I was watching this game, I was like, "This is great," and immediately I went to the schedule because I was like, "When do we get to see this matchup again at Snapdragon Challenge Cup?" We get to see OL Reign and San Diego play in the same group in Challenge Cup. It starts this week, so that's fantastic. And then the second regular season meeting not coming until the end of June for these sides in San Diego. But that's I love that when I'm watching a game and the outcome is frustrating for one side. I think San Diego pretty frustrated with giving up that goal in the waning seconds of regulation or of this game at the end of stoppage time is frustrating for them. They wanted to go on the road. They wanted to get a win. Wanted to get a shutout over OL Reign and find the back of the net. So to know that there's another matchup of this one and we get to see the chess battle again excites me so much. Oh God, I love this league.
I loved the takeaway for me in week 3 is that I really love that we got to see 2022 playoff teams going
Yes,
head to head in an
yes.
early phase of week 3, and just sort of seeing where they're at, building on that, kind of 2022 postseason finish, going up against each other in this early phase, and seeing how they look now, because we know they're not going to look the same when they face each other again further down the line. And I thought it delivered. I thought week 3 delivered the goods.